Hey, it's Lockie, and these are my top 4 paddle boards that I've ridden. In no particular order, the boards are the Karua Shapes Tranny Finder, Jones Hovercraft, Yes Powder Hull, and the Nitro Squash. Although they all have quite a different ride from each other, they do share quite a few of the same features. They all have medium stiff flex, around about a 7 out of 10, a directional shape, sintered base, and taper. I weigh about 155 pounds or 70 kilos and am 6 foot tall. I rode the Yes Powder Hull in a 154, the Jones Hovercraft in a 156, the Karua Shapes Tranny Finder in a 157, and the Nitro Squash in a 153. There are a few things that I look for in a paddleboard, or at least these are things which happen to be in all the boards that I really like riding. They are a directional shape, a decently stiff flex, taper, and a fast base. The directional shape is an easy one. Having a longer nose and a shorter tail helps the board to float by lifting the nose and sinking the tail in the deeper snow. Having a medium stiff to stiff flex, especially in the tail, helps the boards to power through chopped up and tracked out snow, which is what's going to happen as the day goes on. All these boards have a flex rating of 7 out of 10, though in reality, they do flex quite differently than each other. Having a quick base is always a good thing, especially when you're riding on difficult traverses, or making it back to cat tracks without having to unstrap and hike back. Although I wouldn't really say it's an overlooked feature, taper is going to have a good impact on how the board floats and turns. The taper is the difference in the width of the nose compared to the width of the tail. The more taper that a board has, or the wider the nose is than the tail, the more it will help the tail to sink and the nose to float, while it also helps the board turn with a smoother feel. Also, most of these boards are going to have some amount of camber under your feet as well as rocker in the nose. Although the Powder Hull that I rode was flat to rocker, the newer model does have camber between the feet. The first board is the Jones Hovercraft, which has been around for quite a few years now. Out of these 4 boards, the Hovercraft has the most solid and powerful feel. It's very stiff, especially in the tail. The nose and tail have a 3D spoon shape, which adds to the float, and it takes almost zero effort to smash through chopped up snow, and it floats in deep snow very well. The second board is the Yes 420 Powder Hull, which is the least directional of the 4. The base shaping on this board is very unique. It has a reversed spoon shape on the nose and tail that help to scoop air under the board to help it float. While I don't know the exact way that this works, the Powder Hull easily has the best float of the 4, and when riding in deep snow it feels almost strange how well it floats, even at fairly slow speeds. The Karua Shapes Transition Finder or Tranny Finder is a good mix for someone who wants a balance between a board that will float well in the deeper snow and still carve well on days when there isn't much fresh snow. The things it has a lot of. A lot of camber under your feet, a big and wide rocketed nose, and a lot of taper. Like the Hovercraft, it has a very solid overall feel, so riding fast and ploughing through chopped up snow is not an issue at all. The last is the Nitro Squash, which has the narrowest width out of the 4. The giant nose and short and stiff swallowtail means it floats well, and although it has a very powdery looking shape, it could easily be a board you ride in all conditions. The narrower waist width means that the squash is very quick edge to edge, so turning feels just as responsive on groomers as it does in deep snow. The main question you need to work out is, are you trying to get a board that you'll only ride on powder days, or are you looking for something that will also be useful when the snow isn't that soft? If I had to group these boards, I'd put the Hovercraft and the Tranny Finder together. They're both heavier, wide boards that can easily power through whatever snow you need them to. The float on both is great, though I would also prefer to ride the Karua on a groomer day rather than the Hovercraft, though there are plenty of other Jones options which would do that as well. Being the cheapest at $500, the Tranny Finder would have to be the best value. And from this list, this is the one I own for what it's worth. The Hovercraft is just $50 more at $550, and although it's okay for regular riding, the giant side cut does mean that it does best in deep snow, so I would choose this one as a dedicated powder board. The powder hull is the strangest one of the four, with a crazy float that almost doesn't make sense. It's also the most expensive of the lot at $700. But if you want the most float you can get, then this would be the board. I'm guessing that the weird base shaping makes it more expensive to build. The Nitro Squash isn't a crazy expensive one at $530. And like the Tranny Finder, it does really well on groomers as well as in powder. Very quick to turn, though if you have bigger boots you might need to look at the bigger sized 163, which is much wider than the other sizes. I have video reviews of all of these boards separately on my channel, as well as written reviews on their site, which I'll link to in the description below. If you have any questions on any of these boards, or need some help narrowing them down, leave any questions in the comments below.